Okay, today we'll discuss on relationship type. Like when you write any relationship between two entities, for example, manager is a one name of a department which manages the department. Okay, employee is one entity and department is another entity. Any one employee manages a department. Okay, like manages and manager, these are the relationship types. Okay, and works on of employee. Okay, like any one employee means more number of employees works on particular company or particular project. A department of employee again works for department. Employee works for department. Employee works on project, right? Department managed by some department, or employee manages department. Okay, so these are the relationship types. In general, more than one relationship type can exist between the same participating entity types. Sometimes more than one relationship type. Like example, manages and works for. Manages and works for. Like manager manages department, and manager works for department, or manager works for our project. Okay, these are the different relationship types. Okay, more than one relationship type may exist between two entities. Okay, best example is managers and works for, or distinct relationship types between employee and department. Okay, the manager manages, or employee manages, or employee works for. Both are distinct relationship types between employee and department. Okay, even though which gives different meanings and different relationship instances, which gives different meanings as well as different instances. Okay, we know already what do you by instance. Instance is a values. Okay, each relationship type accepts different attribute values or different values. Okay, so next one is recursive relationship type. Okay, recursive relationship type. See, for example, what do you mean by recursive? Recursive means repeatedly or calling itself. Repeatedly calling itself is called recursive. Okay. See, we have an example like employee. Employee is a one entity. Okay. Employee is a entity, and employee may be a supervisor or supervisee. Okay, supervisor means manager, and employee means supervisor means the normal employees. Okay, if one manager is there means n number of employees working under him, right? So that is called supervisor. Okay, now supervise is a relationship type. Supervision or supervisor, supervision is a relationship type. Now which is generated like this. Okay, there is one supervisor, right? And there are n number of supervisee. N number of supervise, 1 is to n, and this is supervise. So here recursively, like you can recursively you can call this relationship type like a employee supervision on n employees, or n employees supervised on one from one supervisor. Okay, n employees supervising on one employer or from one employee. Okay, this is called one recursive relationship type. Recursive relationship type. A relationship type whose with the same participating entity type in distinct roles. For example is supervision is a relationship type. For that, employee participates twice in two distinct roles, which is supervisor, which is a boss, that is the role of one employee, and supervisee, that is a subordinate or normal employees or workers, we can call worker role. Okay, each relationship type instance relates to distinct employee entities. Okay, each relationship type instance relates to distinct employee entities. There is one employee in supervisor role and one employee in supervisory role. Okay, maybe 1:1. Maybe it is one employee in supervisor mode or role and n number of employees in supervisory role. Okay. So next is weak entity. So weak entity means if there is no key. What is what do you mean by key? Key attribute means it is a unique attribute or unique value. Unique value which accepts, that is called attribute. Okay, key attribute. So any entity that does not have a key attribute, such entities we can call as a weak entity. So best example is dependent, as we discussed in the previous classes. So employee may have dependent, but the dependent may not have its own identity, but employee is the identity for the dependent. Okay, like that. A weak entity must participate in identifying relationship type with an owner or identifying entity. Owner entity means or owner identity means is a employee identity of a dependent. Okay, here we have an example. Entities are identified by the combination of a partial key of weak entity type. Partial key is nothing but like it's might or may or may not identify its own dependent. Okay, the dependent name is the partial key. Okay, from that we cannot identify exactly is the person. Okay, because the names might be repeated, so that's why you cannot take as a can like super key or candidate key. The particular entity they are related to in and the identifying entity type. Okay, particular entity they are related to in the identifying entity type. Okay, particular entity means exactly key entity must be means key attribute should be exist, then only we can say that is called entity type. But when you have partial keys, then that is called weak entity type. Okay, so example is there here. Dependent entity is identified by dependent first name. Dependent is identified by dependent's first name, but we cannot say that is the unique. Maybe names are repeated. No, in any table, if names are repeated or if possibility is there, then we cannot say that the key is nothing but key attribute. Okay, might be a partial key attribute and the specific employee with whom the dependent is related. Okay, based on your the first name of dependent cannot identify and we need to specific employee with whom the dependent is to be related. The name of dependent is a partial key, dependent is a weak entity type, employee is its identifying entity type via the identifying relationship type dependent of is a one relationship type between the employee and dependent. Okay, employee dependent of some dependents or dependent of some employee. Okay, that's called a relationship type. Okay, font I can write it and show you like we have a relay means employee is there. Okay, for same diagram I can write it. Okay, So let us take here dependent is there. Dependent is the